A new report projects traffic deaths in the U.S. reached a 16-year high in 2021.
The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has released early estimates indicating that nearly 43,000 people died in motor vehicle crashes just last year. That is over 4,000 more traffic deaths, or a 10.5% increase from 2020. Now, this is the largest annual percentage increase in the history of reporting these fatalities, which started in 1975.
Joining us now is CBS News transportation correspondent Errol Barnett. Errol, welcome. You know, as a parent who gets nervous every time my kids get into a car, literally, what is behind these alarming statistics, and how has the pandemic in particular affected road safety?
Hey there, Nancy and Tanya. Great to see you both. Well, it's difficult to pin this to one specific cause. What we do know is that despite millions of us having to stay home during the pandemic, those who were on the roads appear to have been taking more risky decisions. When we kind of had a hint this was coming, speeding-related fatalities, for example, had already jumped some 17%. 2019 into 2020 when the pandemic began, and now based on these preliminary numbers we're seeing that it's jumped another 5%. So driving behavior, it appears, worsened during the pandemic, but also the way our roads and crosswalks are designed are a part of this. The Governor's Highway Safety Association says as much. In fact, it's pointing to its own data which shows that pedestrian deaths are the highest we've seen them in 4 decades. In a statement, the GHSA said, quote, an increase in dangerous driving during the pandemic combined with roads designed for speed instead of safety has wiped out a decade and a half of progress. It says this grim milestone confirms we're moving backwards. And so the point is that the country's infrastructure can play a role here, but it's difficult to point to one specific cause of why these death numbers across the board are up.
Sure, that behavior that needs to be course corrected at this point, too. I mean, these numbers are incredibly alarming. I'm curious, Errol, can you break down perhaps the types of motor vehicle crashes that increased most over the last year?
Certainly. And to your point, Nancy, about distracted driving, I mean, how many times have each of us been in a vehicle and looked across to the next car to see someone on their phone or scrolling on social media? You know, it's quite common. NHTSA found that traffic deaths were up just geographically, just about everywhere. 44 states here in Washington, D.C. and in Puerto Rico. And overall, fatalities from multi-vehicle crashes showed some of the most dramatic jumps. That's up 16%. Fatalities on urban roads also up 16%. Deaths among older drivers, those above age 65, that's up 14%. You see it on your screens there. And deaths among pedestrians is also up. There are increases in alcohol-related crashes and for cyclists and bikers as well. Even some of the states where we're seeing the biggest jumps may surprise you. Vermont, for example, deaths there are up 24%. Minnesota up 27%. And Idaho, where you might not expect, traffic deaths are up some 33%.
Incredible. Errol, it's really important for every American to be cognizant of this information. But what are U.S. officials doing right now to make streets and roads safer? And isn't the bipartisan infrastructure law, attempting to aid in this?
Absolutely. The federal solution to this is to throw as much money at the problem as possible. But one of the issues, according to the Department of Transportation, is that because rural areas appear to be suffering more, there is not one fix that will fit all jurisdictions. And so what it's done this week is it's opened up applications for its Safer Streets for All program. It is committing $1 billion this year and for the next 5 years for local jurisdictions to apply for this money so they can create their own fixes. The agency, I'll just, for example, show you in Midland, Texas. That's an area where deaths on the road have jumped, and it specifically cites distracted driving, as we were mentioning earlier. But Baltimore, Maryland, here near the nation's capital, saw a 4% decrease in deaths. It has a pledge to get deaths to 0 by 2030 and has acknowledged drunk driving being a major issue. Secretary Buttigieg really is calling this a national crisis, but believes this program will help get resources to local jurisdictions as they need them so that there can be various solutions, whether they are separate bike lanes, slower speeds, and other solutions that will keep people safe on the roads. Because let's not forget, all of these deaths, Nancy and Tanya, are totally preventable.
Yeah.
An important reminder to be more cognizant and aware on the roads.
Absolutely.
100%.
Errol, thank you very much for joining us.
You got it.